We're streamlining operations, she declared to the group, never quite meeting my gaze. Some roles are being phased out. My name is Darren Lee. For 17 years, I managed automation systems at Velwin Manufacturing in Grand Rapids, Michigan. 17 years spent tuning machinery, coding firmware, creating systems no one else could maintain. 17 years making others shine. The transition will be immediate, Jessica added, her voice slicing through the morning meeting. The factory buzzed around us, a rhythm I could predict in my sleep. We've signed with Nexara Labs to handle systems going forward. I folded my arms as 35 coworkers turned to me, not with pity, just mild interest, watching to see how the veteran would handle it. I gave a slight nod and returned to my desk, unplugged my laptop, emptied my drawer, the ceramic mug my daughter made in 3rd grade, my spare glasses, the old notebook packed with handwritten code. The plant had changed hands 3 times since I joined. But this was the first time they decided I wasn't part of the future. No raised voices. No resistance. I'd seen this done to others. Those who fought back only left angrier, with less grace. Jessica wouldn't get that satisfaction from me. She approached as I sealed the last item in my box. Your severance package is generous, she said, sliding a folder my way. 2 months plus unused vacation. Generous? I echoed. The folder stayed untouched. Try to understand. Your systems are outdated, she said. Nexara is rolling out cloud-based monitoring, predictive maintenance, AI-driven diagnostics. This is the future. I zipped my bag. They'll reverse engineer what they need from the calibration files. She glanced at her watch. HR needs to meet with you before you go. I nodded. Jessica had been plant manager for 8 months. MBA from a top-tier university. Loved buzzwords, efficiency, optimization, digital synergy, but never once asked how our legacy systems achieved the industry's lowest defect rates with decade-old machines. I passed the CNC units I had configured, the conveyor line I had optimized, the scanners that relied on my algorithms. Jessica was partly right. I built outdated systems, but I built them to endure. And I built them in a way only I could maintain. I started at Velwin when we only served 3 auto clients. We now supplied 12 and even moved into aerospace. Harold Velwin himself hired me straight out of college after I improved their robotic arms efficiency by 30%. You speak their language, he said, nodding to the machines. That's rare. For 10 years, he let me build our infrastructure from the ground up. I wrote proprietary code for every critical device. When vendors dropped support, I kept equipment running. When we upgraded, I adapted the software to integrate with the old. But then Harold retired. His son sold the company to Tra Freight, a logistics firm expanding into manufacturing. I stayed on because I saved them millions. Jessica arrived soon after, ambitious, young, armed with slides showing how obsolete our operation was. She never spoke to me directly during meetings, just referred to legacy systems like they were a virus. 3 months ago, I saw Nexara reps walking the floor, taking photos, asking questions. I confronted Jessica afterward. Bringing in consultants? I asked. She didn't look up from her tablet. Just exploring efficiencies. Nothing major. A week later, I was locked out of the management server. I was told it was a glitch. Access was partially restored, enough to work, not enough to control. I mentioned it to Leon, our floor supervisor, and the closest I had to a friend there. We sometimes went fishing. Politics, he said. New boss wants to leave a mark. Just ride it out. That night, I backed up every calibration profile and code archive to my personal laptop. Not company equipment, my original work. The systems would keep running until they didn't. Until something needed recalibration or drifted off spec. The fixes existed only in my head and in my private notes. They were about to find out what 17 years of deep system knowledge was worth. My HR exit meeting took 20 minutes. Forms. Benefits. Badge return. Thomas from HR didn't make eye contact. He'd been there nearly as long as I had. Anything else you need before I leave? I asked. He hesitated. Jessica mentioned, maybe you'd consider consulting. 2 weeks to help the handoff. Same rate as your salary. I almost laughed. 2 weeks to extract 17 years? Could help while you job hunt, he added. Weekly pay. I stood up. I'll pass. But thanks. As I left, I passed Leon. He broke away from a group and walked with me. I told Jessica, you're the only one who really gets the system. But Nixora says otherwise. They don't know what they don't know. He lowered his voice. What happens when winter comes and the Southwest line starts grinding again? I shrugged. Not my issue now. 17 years, and you're just walking away? I stopped. You want me to beg? Tell Jessica she made a mistake? You think that changes anything? Leon didn't reply. I patted his shoulder. Maybe we'll get that fishing trip in next weekend. But I knew I wouldn't call. So did he. I drove home in silence. No music, no calls, just tires on asphalt. The house felt hollow, even with 17 years of memories inside. My daughter was off at college. My wife and I divorced 3 years ago. I sat in my office and opened my laptop. A notification popped up. Velwinven disconnected. That's when it hit. 17 years, gone in a single shift. The late nights, the weekend repairs, the unspoken knowledge of every system's flaw and strength just tossed aside. I looked through my backup files, calibration tables, custom firmware, handwritten troubleshooting guides. I wouldn't sabotage anything, but I wasn't giving it away either. They'd made their decision. Now they'd live with it. I closed the laptop, walked to the kitchen, and opened a beer. For the first time in years, I wasn't on call. I should have felt free. Instead, I felt a sharp clarity. They'd be back. 3 weeks passed. I sent resumes, took calls from recruiters, fished alone. Severance came like clockwork. I updated my LinkedIn, got sympathetic messages from old colleagues, none from Velwin, not even Leon. Then, 6 weeks after my exit, my phone rang on a Thursday afternoon. Darren, it's Jessica Barnes from Velwin. I let the silence stretch. Hello, Jessica. Her tone was less polished. We're having problems with the Southwest conveyor. Random shutdowns. Error codes we can't trace. It's impacting production by 20%. I closed my eyes. The same conveyor I'd flagged for maintenance months ago. What does Nixora say? A pause. Still getting up to speed with legacy configurations. They're working on it. I kept my voice even. You're moving toward a full digital transformation, right? Jessica cleared her throat. I know you may feel unappreciated, but this is affecting jobs. We can't afford downtime. She was appealing to my loyalty, but I remembered how quiet everyone was when I got walked out. I'm available, I said. Consulting rate is $300 an hour, 4-hour minimum. Paid in advance. Signed agreement outlining scope. That's more than double your pay. That's my rate now. Take it or leave it. Silence. I'll need approval. Can I call you back? Of course. She called an hour later. Approved. The next morning, I arrived as a visitor. Escorted to the floor. The conveyor stood still, ringed by Nixora techs and frustrated staff. Leon spotted me and gave a nod. Thank God. It took me 27 minutes to confirm. Outdated firmware, just as I warned. I need my laptop connected to the controller, I told Jessica. Whatever you need, she said. I navigated to the files I already knew by heart. Nearby, 2 Nixora reps whispered, should have been documented. Total mess. I almost laughed. 45 minutes later, the system whirred back to life. Workers resumed. Jessica looked both grateful and uneasy. Thank you, Darren. Really? My pleasure. I shut my laptop. Anything else? She hesitated. Actually, the CNC machines in Bay 3 are showing erratic tolerances. Could you check? I looked at my watch. Outside our contract. New agreement required. Her jaw tensed. Be reasonable. You're already here. I am. You made this transactional. I packed my things. Email me if you want another session. As I walked out, Leon caught up. It's not just the CNCs. Everything's falling apart. Quality checks are failing. Returns are way up. I nodded. Said nothing. They have no idea what they've done, do they? Leon glanced around, lowering his voice. Looks that way. You saw this coming, didn't you? I met his gaze. I didn't have to see it coming, Leon. I built these systems. I know exactly what happens when they're neglected. And now you're going to make them pay for it? It wasn't a question. They already are, I replied. After that, the calls came steadily, weekly, sometimes more. Jessica contacted me with another urgent issue each time. I'd negotiate a fresh contract, bump my rate slightly, and fix only what was in scope. 2 months after I left, a different voice rang through the phone. Mr. Lee, this is Andrew Keyes, Vice President of Operations at Trilla Freight. I sat up. Good afternoon, Mr. Keyes. I'll be direct. Our Grand Rapids plant is facing critical quality issues. Warranty claims have spiked. We've lost 2 aerospace contracts over precision failures. Jessica Barnes told me you've been consulting on isolated technical problems. That's correct. We need something broader. A full-time contract, 6 months. You'll fix everything and document the systems properly. I paused. And Nexara Labs? I beat. We're reassessing that partnership. Translation. They were being phased out. I allowed myself a flicker of satisfaction. Appreciate the offer, Mr. Keyes, but I'm talking to other firms. I have limited availability. Name your price, he said. I quoted triple my former salary. He didn't blink. Done. Contracts will be sent today. 2 days later, I returned to Velwyn Manufacturing as a contractor. Jessica was absent. Leon told me she'd been reassigned to another facility. As I reconnected my laptop to the central control systems, the scale of the damage became clear. Nexora had tried to reverse engineer my calibration protocols. In doing so, they'd corrupted firmware. Their AI models had drifted the tolerances wildly. Almost 30% of parts were failing final inspections. The most damning evidence was on the management server. In a folder labeled Strategic Plans, I found Jessica's original proposal. It projected savings of over $200,000 annually by replacing me with Nexara Labs. It anticipated a temporary 3% spike in defect rates, an acceptable cost in her eyes. She hadn't just cut my role to modernize. She'd gambled on simplification and sacrificed quality without understanding my work. I called Leon into my office and showed him. He gave a low whistle. She had it out for you from day one. Not just me, I said. She sold out everything this factory was built on. So, what now? Fix it all and leave again? No, I replied. I'm going to fix it and make sure no one can ever do this again. How? I gave him a small smile. By becoming irreplaceable in a completely new way. That night, I began drafting a new factory management platform, one that fully integrated our existing hardware with real documentation, fail-safes, total transparency, a system that showed exactly what executives were paying for, and one that couldn't operate without me maintaining it. They wanted algorithms to replace me. I'd show them what 17 years of expertise could really do. Over the next month, I restored the entire plant. I started with critical lines, high-precision aerospace, and automotive parts. I reloaded calibration data from my personal archives, updated firmware, ran complete diagnostics. Defect rates fell. Output rose. The factory found its rhythm again. But my nights were spent coding. I called it Veltech, short for Velwyn Electronic Tracking and Equipment Calibration. Unofficially, it was my insurance. 4 weeks in, I met with Keys and the leadership team. The immediate chaos had settled. I stood at the head of the conference table, laptop plugged into the projector. You have a deeper issue, one that goes beyond machines. Keys leaned in. Go on. Your metrics were hidden. Jessica sold cost savings while masking the fallout. I displayed production data from the past 3 months, soaring defects, spiking warranty claims, failing tolerances, all while reported costs fell. This is what happens when you optimize one metric and ignore the others. The room was silent. I clicked to a new slide, Veltech's interface. This is my proposal. Full system integration with real-time visibility. Executives will see quality metrics, predictive maintenance, full transparency. From the floor to the boardroom. Keys asked, would this stop something like this from happening again? It makes the trade-offs visible. You'll still make choices, but with full awareness. I showed them how Veltech tracked every component, predicted repairs, and calculated real costs, including defects and returns. How long to roll this out? 3 months. The core is done. And who maintains it? This was the moment. I will, under a long-term consulting agreement. 2 days a week on site. My company will retain the software rights. Trilla Freight will license it. Your company? Keys raised an eyebrow. Lee Industrial Systems. I hadn't formed it yet, but they didn't need to know that. That sounds pricey, one exec muttered. Cheaper than the last 3 months, I said flatly. I clicked again. The screen showed the cost of the crisis, $3.4 million. My annual consulting fee, $320,000. Veltec license, $150,000. Total $470,000 per year. Silence. Keys nodded. You've clearly put thought into this. I've had time to think about value, experience, and what happens when you treat people like parts. I'll take it to the board, he said, but it's compelling. Leon was waiting outside. How'd it go? We'll see. Either they understand the value or they don't. He grinned. After this mess, they'll understand. At my office door, I paused. By the way, I need a shop floor manager for Lee Industrial Systems. Someone who knows the machines and the team. Interested? He blinked, then smiled. You serious? Dead serious. I'm done building someone else's success. Time to build mine. A week later, Keys called. Proposal accepted. Not just for Grand Rapids, all 6 Trilla plants. 6 months on, I stood above the production floor. Everything was humming. Beside me stood Keys and an unfamiliar executive. Darren, meet Patricia Winters, our new Chief Operations Officer. We shook hands. Impressive setup, she said. Andrew tells me Veltec changed everything. It just shows what was always there, I replied. There's more, she added. Jessica Barnes has been terminated. Turns out she was receiving consulting fees from Nexora while working here. Conflict of interest. So that was it. She wasn't just short-sighted. She was compromised. We've also enacted new policy, Patricia said. All cost cutting must now include quality impact assessments. All tech changes require knowledge retention plans. Smart move, I said. She smiled. We're calling it the Lee Protocol. Your system proved how valuable experience really is. I looked out. Leon training new hires. Operators confident. Screens showing real metrics. All powered by Veltec. All under my brand. Thank you, I said. That means more than you know. Exactly 1 year after being fired, I stood in my downtown Grand Rapids office. Through the window, the Grand River shimmered. Trees had turned to amber and crimson. Lee Industrial Systems now had 12 employees, engineers, techs, admin. My phone buzzed. Lion, Bay 4 upgrade complete. All green. I smiled. He was now my right-hand man, leading operations at all Trilla sites. I focused on growth. We'd onboarded 3 more manufacturing firms that quarter. The industry was noticing about our system, about preserving knowledge, about a founder who turned termination into a turning point. On my desk lay a magazine. The Knowledge Gap, How Lee Industrial Systems is Saving Millions. Beneath it, an invite to speak at the automation conference Jessica once headlined. I picked up a framed photo, my daughter in her graduation cap. She just started as an industrial engineer. You didn't just make lemonade, she said over dinner. You built a lemonade empire. My assistant poked her head in. Your 10 o'clock is here. The Velwyn family. Harold Velwyn, long retired, wanted to buy back his company and needed my help. I adjusted my tie and headed for the conference room. No longer a staffer. Now an advisor. Not replaceable, but vital. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't showing they were wrong. It's becoming the person they never imagined you could be.